Hey, good morning, everyone. How's it going over on this side of the pond? We got an amazing artist today, and his name is Jack J. Hutchinson. He's a UK rock artist here to talk about his new record that drops in the early months of 2021. It's called The Hammer Falls. Jack is an amazing artist. I know we were talking about this off the air, Jack. It's very hard to tell people exactly who you sound like, man. It's so great. Welcome to the show. And how's it going on your side of the pond?
It's good, man. Yeah, it's funny you say that it's difficult to decipher who I sound like, because that hopefully reduces the risk of me being sued at any point. It's all going pretty well over here. Apart from the COVID and all that stuff, but yeah, everything's pretty good.
What do you think of all the stuff happening here right now? Like, how's it gonna is it gonna be detrimental to the music industry moving forward, or do you expect things to get back on track going into 2021?
Well, we're hoping it gets back on track. I mean, we've like rescheduled a tour 3 times now, so we've got dates that are supposed to be kicking off in April, but I don't know. I mean, we're just going to have to see how things go. And I think I've always been quite a flexible musician in that I've always enjoyed just going to like jams and just going out and playing wherever I can. So the rigid idea of tours has perhaps not been that ideal for me anyway. So this idea that we can be flexible and see how things develop is okay. We just have to see.
Yeah, man. Well, it's 10:02 here in Canada. My friend from Be More Super podcast, also from the UK, Brian, check out his podcast. He's loving the new look of the show. Nice and early, nice black coffee from Starbucks, the Christmas blend. What do you got there?
I've actually got a cappuccino, which is in an AC/DC cup. So yeah, cheers.
Cheers. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. You know what? I listened to AC/DC a couple days ago because I was listening to World on Fire.
Yeah.
And on YouTube. So the video played, and all of a sudden AC/DC TNT went on after that. And it's like on a shuffle, and I was like, oh. But I was sitting in the other room at that time, and my laptop was in the kitchen, and it's like, wait a minute. Is this a cover? Or you get all confused, right? So you go back over, it's like AC/DC. Like every time you hear that band, it's an iconic sound.
Yeah, man.
Who are some of your favorite? I know you're a big Zeppelin fan and an Iron Maiden as well. I've seen Iron Maiden. Now, what an awesome concert! I wish I could have seen Led Zeppelin. Don't know if it's ever going to happen where they go back on tour. There's been all those rumors, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. So who are some of your influences?
Well, it's funny you should say that about AC/DC, because actually when we're in the studio, that's how I get guitar tones. I basically stick on Back in Black and then try and recreate that guitar tone because it's just so good, and massive AC/DC fan, listened to him since I was a kid. My dad, massive AC/DC fan as well. But yeah, loads of those old classic rock bands like Zepp and obviously the Stones as well. They're in there. Black Sabbath are a big influence on me. So kind of obvious bands, I suppose. But yeah, stuff from the 70s I really dig.
Yeah, man. And the guitar tones are like, they're immortal, right? I know you covered War Pigs on one of your records. Very cool. And the best thing is, being from the UK, most of the big bands that have made it big, like humongous, like of stature, are from your neck of the woods, right? You got Black Sabbath, you have the Beatles, Rolling Stones are from the UK as well. Who else is from the UK? Many other bands. Def Leppard. There's so many crazy influences for you. What was really interesting to me is that World on Fire was recorded in Brazil.
Yeah, man.
How'd you get to that point to record a song in Brazil? Like, you were there at the time and then decided, hey, let's jump in the studio? Or did you know someone and then fly over there and then make it happen?
I wish I could say I had one of those diva singer moments where I was in a studio in London and I was like, the vibe isn't working, guys, and we just had to fly to Brazil and record over there. I've got a Brazilian drummer called Felipe who, I mean, it wasn't as part of his interview to be in the band, but if he'd said at the time, you know, if you hire me, I can get us gigs in Brazil, he would have definitely been in the band. But yeah, he basically got in touch with some promoters that he used to work with when he lived there, and they got us over there. And then about halfway through the tour, we got this phone call saying you booked into the studio for 2 days at the end of the tour to record whatever the hell you want. So it was kind of free studio time. And I was like, we haven't got any new songs. Like, we need to write a song. So we wrote the song pretty much in sound checks and traveling around Brazil. And that's probably why it sounds like 3 songs put together, because we wrote it in different places across Brazil. But yeah, it was really cool to do it. And the studio, I slept in the studio the night before we recorded as well. So I was pretty vibed up, but pretty tired when we started recording. But we were using this amazing rig, these great Marshall amps, and they've got this vintage Les Paul Gold Top that I used on the record. And yeah, it sounds cool. Sounds pretty cool.
What kind of guitar do you play now? I know, is that a Flying V behind you?
This one is actually a Zach Wild guitar.
Yeah.
It's one of his Wild Audio guitars that look pretty bombastic.
Yeah.
And they sound absolutely amazing, though. This sort of rips your face off. But yeah,
I just want to stop you there for a sec. If you want to comment or say anything, just drop something in the comments, and we'll ask Jack, or we'll talk about it. Like we this is a cool little platform here, because when we go live, you can connect with the artist, connect with the actor or the entrepreneur, ask him questions, and Jack's here for that. You got to check out Jack's music on YouTube, Spotify, wherever. Actually, buy the record, buy whatever you can from any artist now that you support, because it really helps them. They're at home thinking about what's next. They're creating music, and it's gonna be a bombastic 2021, isn't it?
Yeah, fingers crossed, man. I mean, we've written a lot of material this year because we've not really been able to go out and gig. We've done occasional gigs. We went over to France to do a festival, and then we had to quarantine when we came back for 2 weeks, which was crazy, because we were in the studio over here down in Devon, and then we went over to France, did this amazing festival. We got the Euro star back over, and then we were just locked in our apartments for the next 2 weeks. It was just really weird. And that's something that's been strange this year, is mentally dealing with it. Everybody's had to deal with what's been going on in different ways. But I'm used to traveling and being on the road with my band, and to be stuck inside. I think there's been days where my girlfriend's got the vibe that I'm about to just like explode, because I've got a lot of energy that I can't get out on stage.
Yeah, it's a very tough mental strain on a lot of people, right? I mean, like for us here in Canada, I know you guys were in the lockdown in the UK for quite some time, and well, you guys are off it now, or are you guys still in lockdown?
Well, just before we came on air today, actually, there was a thing on the news about them possibly increasing the lockdown rules and that sort of thing. I'll be honest, I'm just avoiding the news now, because I just find it too much. And
it'd be nice to just, you know what, I was going to write last night on Facebook. I was up late doing some editing and whatever, and I was like, there's enough negativity in the world. Like, just, I want to see something positive, right? Elections, vaccines, and that all kind of depresses me, because I feel like I'm going to be in the house for 2-3 years, because you know what I mean? It's like always like, this is happening, this is how many cases are in your city, and then this is what could happen. And it's like, okay, well, I don't really understand what exactly is going on. Obviously, like, the virus is actually real, it's contagious, but I really hope that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel at some point, because it not only is it messing people up mentally, it's messing people up financially, ruining the careers. Like, I know many bands that were on like they're soaring, right, and now it all stops, so it's a big halt. And especially if you don't you're not good at social media and you don't have any like people listening to you constantly, how are you going to get attention, right? It's so hard now, right? And as an artist, you're competing at this point with a major labels, funds, and major artists as well because they have the reach. I know World on Fire is a great track. Actually, I thought that looked like Zach Wild in one of the artist picks. That I was like, man, that looks like Zach Wild. Now it all makes sense because you're a big Zach Wild fan, and so am I. And what a great career that guy has had. Doing the Aussie thing and also the Black Label Society thing. And I saw him in what was it? It's one of those tours where all the guitar players go around and they do their little thing on stage. Betancourt, Tossin Abasi from Animals as Leaders, Yngwie Malmsteen, Steve Vai, and then it was Zach Wild, and there was someone else, but I forget who that guy was. Sorry if you're listening, but it was so good. Zach Wild definitely cements his status amongst some of the best guitar players of all time. What do you think?
Yeah, man. Well, it's funny because the last gig I went to before lockdown was to see Zach Sabbath, which is Zach's Black Sabbath tribute band, which was a great show. They played up in Birmingham for the 50th anniversary of Sabbath, and me and my band went up on the train, and it was great to be in Birmingham and hear those songs. And that's kind of the reason we did War Pigs, because we were just like, wow, we got to do a version of this. And then they were so good that we were actually in the middle of our own tour, and we got like 3 or 4 days off. And normally what you do is go home and recuperate and get back out on the road. But I was like, I'm going to get a flight to Paris and go and see Zach Sabbath like 2 nights later. So I flew to Paris, and I remember being like at the airport, and people were talking about coronavirus and stuff, and I was like, I don't care. So I went to Paris on my own, like a real saddo, and went to see Zach Sabbath. And I met Zach for the first time that night, and he was so cool. And it was an example of how somebody who is so well known, so popular, people absolutely love this guy, and he's so down to earth, and he had so much time for fans. And we had a joke about something, because I tweeted about I'd taken this, I've got a Zach Wild wah-wah pedal, so I took it with me to get Zach to sign it. And I got stopped at the airport because as it went through on the scanner on my bag, this big metal steel thing came up, and they obviously thought it was a bit iffy. But yeah, he was so cool, man. And what a band, and what a guitar player. And he's been inspiring me for 20 years because he's got the ability to reinvent himself. So he'll do the sort of, Pride and Glory acoustic stuff. And I'm a big fan of Neil Young, love that kind of acoustic vibe. But then he can go out and do the full-on rock show, which, I don't think there's many people who are better at that than Zach Wild.
And I think he's clean now, so he's fully sober, and he's pumping the iron and lifting weights and drinking a lot of coffee. I think he has his own coffee line as well. But
he does, yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool.
That's the dream. That's the dream.
Yeah, that's the dream for me as well. Maybe we'll collaborate one day. You know what, Zach Wild, if you ever hear this, Jack J. Hutchinson would love to share the stage with you in some point in time in the near future, because it would be really cool.
I'll pour his coffee for him, man. I'll pour his coffee for him.
Yeah, exactly. You'll push the amp on the stage, man. All the Marshalls. Yngwie Malmsteen, actually, that's a guy that I respect, and just seeing him live, he has great technique, but I noticed how repetitive everything is with him. Right? It's just so there's so many amps on stage. I don't even know. I was a fan, and then now I saw him live. Yeah, I'm kind of still a fan, but like I'm kind of turned off. It's just always the same thing over and over again. I know he's the master of speed, especially the blues scales and the pregios, and so mad respect to him. But Zach Wild for me was great. Nuno Betancourt, when I saw him live, unreal. What a great musician, man. That's a guy who worked with Rihanna, and he's in that band called is it Extreme? He's in Extreme. Yeah, that band's great. So Jack, let's talk about The Hammer Falls. When's that coming out exactly? The album.
Well, part of my thinking with we want to be able to tour it. So when it comes out, we want to be able to hit the road really with it. So this is the first album. Like, I've released maybe 4 albums now, 4 or 5 albums, different types of albums, and they've always been recorded through, just sheer amount of gigging, basically getting 2 or 3 days off and rushing in a studio and doing some songs. Whereas with this one, because we've had a lot of time to work on it, it's almost like you compile 30 songs and pick the best ones, which is a really different way to how I work usually. So I'm back in the studio at the end of this week, and then we've got some more studio time in January. Then it should be finished. We finished mixing the next single this week, and I got a message from my PR guy Wes saying we've got to get on a mountaintop and shoot a video on a mountaintop. So he's already got his ideas for promo, and I was like, going to go on a mountaintop. We might as well do the full Guns N' Roses and have me driving a car off a cliff or something,
Yeah,
it's
that'd be a cool idea. A mountaintop, that'd be great.
Yeah,
get a couple of drones out there, and
yeah, drones. I'm getting Wes up in a helicopter flying around trying to film me, mate. But yeah, I think it's coming together really well, and it sounds like a progression. And I've always wanted to do that with my albums, where you achieve a certain thing with an album, and for me that tends to be, it's a record of that moment in time. So if you bring out an album a year or an album every other year, it's a record of that period of time. And so this is the same thing, and it's it's a lot of personal material that reflects on what's happened, I guess, over the last 12 months, and it sounds good.
Do you find it frustrating being locked up and trying to find inspiration? I know there's a lot of negativity now in the air, and do you think life will ever go back to what it used to be before? Hanging out with your friends, being able to go, down the street to the pub and enjoy a pint, or what do you think?
Well, I do enjoy going to the pub, and I enjoy meeting people, and I enjoy. One of the things I love the most about touring actually is kind of those nights where you end up in a bar after a gig and you're meeting random people that have been at the show, and you're shaking their hand, giving them a hug, and just letting loose. And yeah, that's a big part of who I am actually, and I like to socialize with people. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm quite touchy-feely, and I like to hug people and like to just kind of get to know people. And so that whole element of this year has been a bit weird, where you've got to be really strict about socially distancing. I just hope it goes back to it. Just before lockdown, we did a tour of Spain, and we were playing these amazing venues where, you're going on stage at sort of midnight, 1 a.m, finishing up at 3, and then you're in the bar just having whiskeys. And the thought of going on tour and it being so strict in terms of social distancing and all that sort of stuff, it just doesn't fit with rock and roll for me. But we've got to do what we've got to do in order to get back on the road. So we'll just have to see how it develops.
Absolutely. Your PR agent, Wes O'Neill from O'Neill PR, he said it'll be an epic time flying that helicopter.
Well, he's a big fan of the Mission Impossible films, so I can imagine him. He'd want to be strapped to the side of it like Tom Cruise.
Maybe he can jump out with a parachute and get the actual the live action feel. You know what, man? It's been a pleasure talking to you. There's a lot of crazy things happening today, and what are you up to for the holidays? I know you're probably locked up, but not really locked up. But locked up wouldn't mean you're isolated in one room. But how is Christmas or holidays going to be like in the UK this year?
Well, we're squeezing in some studio time right before Christmas. I mean, I sort of finished this week, and we did a live stream on Saturday, and I was like, that's it, I'm finishing. But yeah, we've got some more studio time just to get some more stuff down. And then, I'll have like a week off. I'm hoping to get home to see my mum and see my brother and family. But I don't know. We'll have to see what happens, because it appears as though the government are going to change the restrictions again. But, if we can't meet up physically, this part of the joy of this year has been discovering technology. I've never really engaged with it in this way before. I never knew what Zoom was until this year, and it's been a great way to actually reconnect with a lot of people that I've probably lost track of, because I've been able to do it just like we're doing this, just do it on a live stream and catch up.
I think investors know what Zoom is now too, because the stock is like probably through the roof. And after all this, it's almost like a reset, right? Like we're in the digital age now, where everything's off Amazon, everything is going to be online. People may not go back to their offices because, hey, well, it's cheaper to have you guys work remotely and let's meet up once in a while. There's so much, right? And for us here, I think we're going to be stuck. The government has told us we have to stay within our bubble, which is the 5 people within our home. Like we only have 5 people in our home. Like, so we're, my kids and my wife and I, and it's going to be pretty tough this year. I really hope that we're able to see my parents, because I have never spent a Christmas without my parents in 32 years, and that would be a very, very hard one for me. So there's a lot of people feeling mentally drained and depressed this year, and I'm trying to overcome and make people feel a bit better. I always try and have a laugh always, and keep it entertaining. And I know people get kind of annoyed because I'm so happy all the time, but it's always because being a musician and being someone in show business, you've got to stay positive and pass out those vibes, man. And it's a great time now to listen to new artists and new music that you've never heard of before, because your music would be awesome on a late night, sipping some whiskey or having a couple pints, or even in the morning when you're doing some work, enjoying a nice Starbucks holiday blend. Shameless plug there.
Hey, I just want to show you something. Actually, this is something I got yesterday. I had one this morning. This top latte, absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
free advertising for him, like they need it. But there you go.
Man. Put some money in Jack's pocket, man. He's a musician who tours all over the world, and he's doing very well. Yeah, Starbucks has got some awesome coffee. It's just so good. And I'm not going to say Starbucks is the greatest, but there's a lot of independent roasters around the world that make some exquisite, excellent coffee. And you know what? It's always great to try new things. And so if you were to form a band or collaborate with any musician besides Zakk Wylde, let me choose the position that this musician would hold within your collaboration. It would be the vocalist. So you pick who's fronting this next collaboration you're doing, but it can only be a vocalist from a band. He cannot be dead. He has to be alive and functioning. All right. So who do you think it could be? I would say Bruce Dickinson would be pretty cool. I've always wanted Sebastian Bach to front my band. That'd be awesome. But
well, the thing with Bruce Dickinson would be, if you're on tour with a guy, I always find Bruce Dickinson's interviews really interesting because he's into so many different things. So one of the problems with lead singers is that they tend to have kind of lead singer syndrome, which, to be honest, I kind of have sometimes when we're on tour, and we're faffing around in sound check trying to get the bass player's tone right, and I'm like, I'm the lead singer, this is all about me. But yeah, I can imagine Bruce being actually pretty cool to be on tour with. Whereas he's probably my favorite singer is Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes. I'm not quite sure how what it would be like being on tour with Chris, but I've met Chris a couple of times, and he's always been really cool. And he's my favorite singer. I think the Crowes are just such an incredible band. And part of the reason for that is that every time I've seen them, when they've been to London, I've maybe gone to see them in 2 or 3 nights in a row, and they've played completely different set lists. This really eclectic collection of different songs. So Chris can sing country, he can sing rock and roll, he can sing hard rock. He's just a really adaptive vocalist, and that would make it really interesting to collaborate with him. But yeah, Bruce Dickinson, I love Bruce's vocals. Actually, he's kind of an inspiration for me as a vocalist, more than Chris, really, in terms of control of voice. You mentioned Miles Kennedy earlier on. I mean, he's up there as well. Just phenomenal technique, isn't it, that he uses? I don't sing like Miles Kennedy, though. I mean, it's quite I don't think I can get that high, but yeah, all great
You can
singers.
have familiar tones, but you can never be Miles Kennedy. You can only be yourself, man. Jack J.
Yeah.
Hutchinson, man. You know, I would love to work with Sebastian Bach in some way, shape, or form. I think that guy has a wicked voice. You know, just listen to his solo records. Like, they're killer, right? Like, I don't know if you ever listened to those. They are awesome. I definitely recommend you listening to those.
But that's the sort of stuff where you need to kind of be kicked in the balls to be able to sing it, though. So
Yeah, man, it's just so cool. Like the whole craft of singing in general is very difficult, right? I mean, to do it properly, even like for some of these metal vocalists, like bands like Lamb of God and whatever. That's all people have trained to do that, right? To do it properly.
I was never really a singer in bands. I was always a guitar player. And the
Yeah.
reason I ended up being a singer was I got sick of singers being in bands and not showing up for gigs, or when they did show up for gigs, being more concerned with, you know, pulling women rather than concentrating on singing the right vocal lines. And it just happened on too many occasions where I ended up having to sing because the singers weren't showing up or doing other things. And then, yeah, initially I found it really terrifying because I was used to just being the guitar player who was kind of like, you know, in the background. Well, not really in the background actually, but just being kind of cool and on the side. Whereas having to stand at the front with a microphone and entertain a crowd, not just sing, but keep them entertained in between the songs, I found really difficult. But now I love it. I think it's a whole other release. Guitar playing live is a release, but being able to belt out a vocal line, once I'd unlocked it, it sort of, yeah, it was like, oh God, this is great. And that was through, there was a guy called Rick Baxendale who I was in a band with for a bit, and he was producing at Universal Studios in Fulham. And he really taught me a lot about vocal technique. And because I was trying to sing a little bit like Miles Kennedy, I was singing like up here, and he was like, well, you need to use your lower register. And once I'd unlocked that lower register and brought out the tones in my voice, yeah, it was like, oh my God. And it helped me write a lot of new material because it was like I'm writing for a voice that I didn't know that I had.
Jack, we're going to wrap this up, but I want you to tell people why they should listen to the new Jack J. Hutchinson record. Convince them. Why?
If you like good old rock and roll and you like something that references the best bits of the 70s but sounds contemporary and it'll put a smile on your face, then my music is for you.
And they can find your music anywhere they stream music, Spotify, Apple Music. Actually, Spotify is probably the easiest one because like you can just kind of just click on one song and it'll take you right through all your records. How many records do you have?
God knows. I've released about 12 things this year. So, I mean, that's it. Next year, I'm going to release one album and that's it. This year's just been filled with streaming and, you know, lots of different compilations of albums. So, yeah.
And a massive amount of touring to happen next year for Jack, right?
I'm thinking from the summer onwards, we'll get back on it. That's the way I'm seeing it. And we've got basically like a year of rescheduled dates, plus the dates that we were going to do next year anyway. So it's going to be pretty full on and a lot of fun.
We already sold a record here. Thanks a lot, Brittany. Yeah, you can just reach out to Jack J. Hutchinson over Facebook. Check him out. Very awesome artist, man. Great tones. It really takes me back listening to music late at night. I had an interview last night as well. And I just sat down and I was like, you know what, I'll just try and go through your discography and listen to it. And usually I just click around, but for some reason I just started listening to 1, 2, and then I ended up being in the middle of like your most recent record. And I really appreciate all the work you've done over the past couple of years and the touring. I don't know how strenuous that could be on a relationship or how strenuous that could be on even yourself financially, but I think it's pretty stressful, right? And kudos to you, man. Like being a blues rock artist out of the UK, stepping outside your boundaries, going to Brazil. You've toured a lot, Spain we talked about earlier. And what country do you want to land in to do a tour? Which one is your number one country right now to jump out and put your feet on the ground and rock a show there?
Do you know what, man? We were actually talking to people in Australia before all this happened, and also in Japan. So hopefully we can pick that back up next year. And I got a gig offer for a gig in Dubai, so I'm hoping that still comes through as well. But the more sort of outside my comfort zone, the better, you know, because I played a lot of gigs in the UK for the first few years of my career, and to go to places like Brazil was just incredible. And you know, it'd be amazing to go to Canada, it'd be amazing to go to the US and just explore different places. I like traveling and meeting new people. So yeah, I will say that I'm terrible at learning other languages though, so I rely on my bandmates Lazarus and Felipe to actually communicate when we go abroad. So they're very good at that.
You gotta keep people who speak different languages in your band, which is great.
Absolutely. Well, I've got Laz is from Greece and Felipe's from Brazil, so that's a good starting point, I think.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for tuning in, everyone who's left a message or watched the show, or who's going to listen to the show later on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. This is the one of the first cool little interviews we've done live on this channel, and Twitch and YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so much, Jack, for chiming in with us and updating us on what's going on. I know I've been checking you out over the last couple of weeks, the music and videos online, and I'm so happy that I actually tried making the time to sit down with you, man. It's great doing it over coffee. It feels so much better drinking coffee in the morning than late at night at an interview. Like, that's awesome. Have a great Christmas, man. Merry Christmas to you and your family, everyone in the UK and around the world. And let's all get back to normal next year, because it would be just so great to see Jack live on a stage nearby. And if you want to check out his records again, Spotify, Apple Music, and also his website. What's your website? People go buy your stuff off your website too, right?
Yeah, man. It's jackjhutchinsonmusic.com.
All right. Thank you so much, Jack J. Hutchinson on Meet Me for Coffee. Take care, Jack. All the best.
Cheers.
Cheers.